What's going on, everyone? Today I'm back with another episode of My Type of Shit. I think this is episode 7. My name's Mech. You can find me on Twitter at Perception. Today we're talking about INFPs. I'm joined here with our two other hosts, Michelle and Emily. Michelle?
Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Michelle. I'm an ENFP, and my stuff is all going to be linked down below, but you might want to check out my YouTube channel. It's pretty cool. My Twitter, who uses Twitter? It's like 2019. Come
Me.
on.
True.
Go
Well,
ahead, Emily.
okay. Um, I use Twitter, but I just started using Twitter again. It's funny because I get okay. Before I say this, my name's Emily. I'm an INFJ or IEI in socionics, and all of my social media is Pakoki. And it's also linked in the description. All of our social media is linked in the description, and you should also follow this podcast on YouTube. You should subscribe. And again, we say this every single time, but hopefully future us has put it on other platforms besides YouTube. So hopefully that will be a thing.
You
And
think
then
that'll ever be a thing? Like, honestly?
Come
Will
on,
we
it's
ever
going to
get...
be a thing.
it's
It
gonna
is
be a thing.
inevitable.
It's going to be a thing. I mean, I'm in a weird place in my life right now, but things are gonna get better later.
Whoa,
But
So
look at that
also,
optimism. Unreal.
I want to add
Unprecedented.
that Mech is the one who's holding all these files hostage, so
Okay. She had to put me out there, man. This is unreal.
it's all on. No, just kidding. Sorry, had to. I had to.
Emily, optimistic, but not as optimistic as the INFP.
Damn.
Am I
I
right?
don't, I don't know about that.
Okay, honestly, this is probably a good topic to start with. Like, INFJ versus INFP. Like, that is like a common discussion in the community saying that this is one of the most common mistypes.
Yeah.
It
Also,
is.
between the INFJ and the ISFJ. But that's another topic for another time.
Yeah.
I think the INFP though, like it's honestly really hard to tell the difference between these two types sometimes when you only look at like the surface. I think.
Yeah.
Uh, when you get to know one though, you could kind of tell the difference because they operate as far as lifestyle preferences go. There's some core differences with the way that they operate. I think.
For sure.
Well, cognitively speaking, INFPs, if we want to speak in Myers-Briggs terms, their cognitive stacking is introverted feeling, FI, extroverted intuition, NE, introverted sensing, SI, and extroverted thinking, TE. Whereas INFJs, in Myers-Briggs terms, lead with introverted intuition, NI. Secondary function or their auxiliary function is extroverted feeling, FE. Their tertiary function is introverted thinking, TI, and their final function or their fourth function is extroverted sensing, SE. So INFPs and INFJs do not share any of the cognitive functions in Myers-Briggs, and I like to think in socionics terms. So in socionics, I believe INFJs would be IEIs in socionics, um, and INFPs in Myers-Briggs would be EII in socionics. So they're in the delta quadra, whereas IEIs or INFJs and Myers-Briggs are in the beta quadra. And I don't know. The quadra differences and the quadra values are vastly different, in my opinion.
They are vastly different
I would
types.
agree.
They are. But like
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is like let's say you're looking at a celebrity, you know she's an INF, but you don't know which one and she's like the way she's talking, like you just can't tell. Sometimes you just can't tell or like often people say that they claim one but they don't. It's kind of how last week we were talking about the INTJ versus the the ENTJ versus the ENTP with Ty Lopez. A similar thing could happen if you imagine like I don't know, I just imagine some random actress or something. I obviously don't even have to give an example, but right there. You know what I'm saying? These two
Yeah.
types can be mismatched pretty easily.
No. I would agree. I think it's like the same with ENFJ, ENFP. Like on the outside, you tend to have similar goals and similar like aspirations. So because of that, and the way that you are just NFs in general, especially on the introverted side, it can be very hard to tell apart when you don't know them very closely. But as you get to know them more closely, you start to realize that there's a difference in the style of communication and also in the style of how they perceive reality. Um,
Oh my
that's
gosh, you're
vastly
hitting this
different.
right on the nose here. I honestly think like the INFP. All right, tell me honestly though, do you guys like INFPs or do you guys get along with them well? Like, how do you guys feel about them? Because I know I tend to, I grew up around a lot of thinkers. We
Mhm.
had an INFP in our group, but even beyond that, I know a lot of the thinkers, when they would come across other INFPs, they really didn't like them. Like, I
Mm.
personally like them, but I'm saying there's a lot of types that get extremely annoyed with them.
Mm. I
Like,
can say that they are like the introverted version of me, but also the slightly more judgmental version. And I don't mean judgmental in a bad way necessarily. But they are more likely to become upset by a situation and the way people are acting. Um, Whereas I can normally brush it off and like kind of logic my way out of getting upset. But I think it's a lot harder for them to suppress those feelings because they lead with that introverted feeling. When somebody does something that they don't like, it definitely upsets them.
they do get mad, they get offended. Offended
Yeah.
might be like one of the top words in there.
Yeah.
That like you could define them in that way. And
I
and I
do.
don't mean no harm. By the way, to the INFPs out there, I love you, but I'm gonna be a little bit judgmental of this podcast. I kind of it's like walking on eggshells with you guys, but it's also I have to admit, like before I even go any further, I think INFPs are my most favorite type out of all of them. They like I said that they have like the best cons or the best pros. I mean, out of any type, in my opinion. Like they have a lot of things I like in people. They're the most. I think they're like really. This is mostly a lot of opinionated stuff here. I'm talking from me, but I think they're the most human-like of all the types. They're really in tune with their inner emotions. I like that. It's not something I've really been able to replicate or understand in my life, and so, they are able to bring that. I mean, ENFPs do it too, but just in a different way. And ENFPs are cool, but I like the kind of things INFPs are into too. They tend to have a lot of cooler interests, like art. A lot of them are insane drawers, and I don't mean just good. I mean insane. Um, just super talented at art from the ground up. And I would say though, but despite how much I like them, their cons are atrocious. I mean, it deal breaker atrocious to the point where I don't even want like I don't even if I like I love them so much, but I don't know if I can talk to them anymore because their cons are so bad. Which we'll get to later in the episode. But anyway, uh,
Sorry, I'm just over here dying because the way you said that is so funny. You're like, they are great, but I also hate everything about them.
I love their pros, but I hate their cons. It's just so I don't know how to say it.
What
I
the
just have
hell?
no clue how to say it.
Uh-oh, we're getting
Sorry, did you
directions.
hear that?
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
That was
did.
really weird. I didn't even have my app open.
yeah.
That was
Sometimes
very strange.
this technology is always listening.
The technology is clearly an INFP and is offended that we're talking about them this way.
Yeah, I don't know if Siri has a personality type. Personally, I don't know. I know
You want to
Emily.
start that argument? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I know Emily likes to type
Siri,
her cat though.
what's your personality type?
I'm not sure I understand.
See, she doesn't know, so that means we have to
She
type
doesn't
her,
know.
and it's not gonna work.
Oh,
Siri, what is your Myers-Briggs personality type?
I don't really like talking about myself.
Boom.
she's an
Alexa,
INFP. No.
Alexa,
Oh, we got her right there.
Alexa, what's your Myers-Briggs personality type?
Maybe the skill, personality type, can help. Do you want to try it?
No. Off. Alexa, off.
Unreal. So Alexa's got more of
You
a brain
know,
than Siri.
Alexa could spill some. Oh my gosh, I'm not talking to you, lady. Could spill some tea on things she's heard in my room.
Oh
I
my
see.
god.
Alexa, off.
I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Unreal.
My opinion about INFPs is interesting. I am friends with quite a few INFPs. Like I just have naturally been friends with INFPs like my whole life.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But I also think they're very different. Like we just value different things, and I think it's interesting that you have that perspective on INFPs because I would not say they're the most human type, in my opinion. And I would also say that I've found, and I like INFPs, I really do, but I find INFPs to be very self-absorbed people, and not in a bad way necessarily, but I think it is because of introverted feeling. They're very much in their own space and kind of out of touch with reality. At least that's what I've seen. But they are very creative, and I do think they're very empathetic people. I Some of my better friends have been INFPs, but I don't think, I mean, I've been kind of best friends with INFPs, but they're not typically my more long lasting friendships that are like super deep, I guess.
And there's a reason for
If that
that
makes
too.
sense.
And it's
Well, and
not really your fault either. It's a fault within the INFP, and that they struggle to quite a degree to maintain friendships over an extended period of time. This is also a fault of the ENFP, but it's even worse so in the INFP, and that they
I don't
are
know about that actually. I would actually say that ENFPs struggle with it more, but it's a
maybe
different
so,
kind of. I
maybe
think
so.
it's kind of different. I think INFPs are a little bit more self-absorbed, like I said. And part of the reason why I'm not as close with certain INFPs is some of their behavior was just very, I just found very selfish, and I just didn't, I kind of, and that's not something that's necessarily I don't know. When I was younger, I used to, even though I didn't know the stuff about typology and stuff, I would see introverted feeling, especially people that are like INFPs, and like even my sister as an ISTJ, I would see that as very selfish,
Mm.
and I just wasn't able to relate to certain behaviors.
I can
Uh,
respect that. I find that opinion refreshing personally. I like it because it's never something I would say, but I can't hate on that. Like it's just it's interesting point of view. I don't know though if it has to do with the fact that you have extroverted feeling or not though. I don't know.
I think when you value introverted feeling, it may be seen differently. And I don't think, introverted feeling is inherently um, selfish, but that was definitely my impression when I was younger before I knew what it was. Like looking back and
Sure.
knowing people's personalities now. Um, I do feel like, and I mean, I know that this is kind of like, I definitely want to say some more positive things about
Yeah.
INFPs, but that is something that I have really found with a lot of INFPs, and I'm friends with, I would say, some of my stronger INFP friendships now are male INFPs.
Mm.
Um, but even with that, there's one person in particular that's like, I'm not extremely close with this person, but I've known him for a long time. And we talk, pretty regularly. But it's almost like I'll always want to like do stuff with him and like reach out and like try to like come up with like hanging out or something, but it almost feels like he thinks that which it doesn't happen frequently, but it almost feels like he thinks that I like him or something in a different way. Um
That's INFPs though. I mean, if you've seen their subreddit, they meme about this. It's like they claim to like fall in love instantly, or people fall in love with them very. I don't know. They're very weird. Okay, this is the thing. INFPs love, and all of the NFs do, but INFPs I've known, I feel like they are more so on that, and that they just love the idea of love to the point where a life without love is not a life worth living for them. Versus me is like I don't even care about it at this point. But like them, they would not be able to operate under the bounds I've set up for myself, and that's just how it goes. So maybe he has a distorted view of reality, which that might be the definition of an INFP, distorted view of reality. Their reality and INFPs don't mix. We'll just say that now.
Damn.
They don't. They just
I think it does. Like I think a more mature INFP, because shout out to my friend Reggie, and this is not who I was talking about before.
Sure.
But I would say one of my closer INFP friendships, which we kind of have lost touch a little bit just because we do not live on the same in the same area of the country. I met him in Seattle, and like we used to hang out all the time, and it was like 24/7, and I really admire his like drive and who he is, and like and he's also a different kind of INFP in the sense that he did things that were non-stereotypical to his personality type in order to like develop himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've known quite a few of them just because I think introverts hang out around introverts. I like how different our opinions are on them. Like, we are both giving very different point of views. I like it. Michelle, what do you think?
Well, part of the problem is INFPs are not a type that I necessarily spend a lot of time with. Like, I don't spend a lot of time with other ENFPs or INFPs. I think a lot of it is because we're so similar that if we have different morals or like ideas of what's right and wrong, we tend to not get along because we both feel pretty passionately about what we feel passionately about. You would think that because we're so similar, we would like hanging out with each other. And I'm sure there are more INFPs in my life than I recognize, but normally I don't really spend a whole lot of time with them. Something that I've noticed though is that they do tend to philosophize a lot and think about, well, like there's this one YouTuber who, as soon as I watched him, I knew that he was an INFP. I think his username is the Black Fence. Um, I think that's it.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
I think he's Australian. Um, he is like such a stereotype. I watched one video and I knew just like how he would talk about, trying to imagine from other people's perspectives, but like all other people's perspective and try to find something that works for everyone, which is something that I do a lot, but it was much more on a moral stance than I would take. And I don't know, they're just like ENFPs, but more emotionally intense and more morally intense. Like they want to have those conversations all the time, I think, about like what's morally correct, and they want to play with those
Yes,
ideas.
it's
Kind of like INTPs play with ideas about logical things. I think INFPs play with ideas about moral things. Um, to an extent where it could be overwhelming, but it can also be very interesting.
yeah. I think it's unique, most
Hmm.
certainly, the way they operate in terms of what is right and wrong. You know what's not even that. The unique aspect is their emotional reaction to things that they view to be wrong. That is interesting because they're the ones who this and they are frail. That's another good word to describe them.
Hmm.
This frail being is standing up against what they believe is wrong. I see it so often. They're honestly very stereotypical in movies too, where
Hmm.
person A is bullying person B and they'll stand up for person B on the school bus or just corny examples like that. But that's just how it goes down with them, and it's just weird. Like other types will just sit and watch, or they just don't care, or like whatever. INFPs, if they see something injustice, they will they will speak up. A lot of times with their words, though. They're not violent by any means. I think they're just they have their own sense of right and wrong, and they're gonna spread that out. That's the other thing too, though. I feel like the concept of my way or the highway. This is like the origin for INFPs. Like my way is the right way. I think it's FI just overtaking the personality to a point that's
Yeah.
unhealthy.
I would well, I don't know about unhealthy, but I would definitely agree that my way or the highway. And I've known a lot of INFPs and watched a lot of INFPs who kind of they'll say what they think is the right thing for somebody to do, They don't always say it publicly though, which is where I think a misconception comes. They won't necessarily stand up for people right there on the spot, but they will say things to people. Like they'll like send private messages or like reach out to people directly and be like, "Hey, what you did was wrong. Like
Yeah,
here's how you can do it better."
maybe I hadn't explained it the best because they are extremely conflict avoidant to a point that it causes problems in close. Because I'll speak from personal
Right.
experience. The only relationship I've ever been in was with an INFP, and so the conflict avoidance causes major issues when you're constantly
Mhm.
burying the problems. The problems never get solved, and they snowball into bigger problems. And so, I can't speak for any of their other flaws, but I know that one was quite a big problem where uh, I just know that avoiding conflict all the time is not the approach I like to take. Like I want to be very straightforward. This is a problem, and like we need to work on a solution that's good for both of us. And if that doesn't work, then and there's none of that. The communication styles were just incompatible. I think. Uh, you know, I can be interested in an INFP, and they could be interested in me, but the communication styles between the two of our types, the INTJ and
Mhm.
the INFP, it uh it often causes problems later down the road. I think in the late game, I don't think it works out.
Yeah, I feel like that NESI, SENI. I think that with any two people, I think that's honestly where most problems stem from is when you see things when your perception functions are opposite of each other, it can make communication a lot more difficult, especially in long-term close relationships. Um, because I'm with an INFJ, obviously, and that's where a lot of our conflict comes from is from the NISE axis, um, where they have all the like NE has all these ideas and NI is just like, let's pick one and go with it, or like all these ideas are stupid, or like gets overwhelmed. Um, so definitely the INFP has that problem as well as the ENFP where they get too much in possibility land for sure.
Definitely, like this meme. By the way, I'm browsing memes right now, so the people who are watching can see the memes. Which also, before I even go on about this, they have the second best subreddit, I think, of all the subreddits, following the INTP. But they have
Which
a really
makes
good
sense.
subreddit. They do. Their meme game is, on point. They're active. They got 53,000 people on it.
Dang.
It's just, yeah, they're popular. It's good. It's a good subreddit. I'd recommend if any of you guys are INFPs or interested in INFPs to follow this because they have good content. But yeah, they go into impossibility land as seen by meme on screen. They just make promises they can't keep, or you know, I don't know what to call it. I mean, there's a lot of. I can be mean. I can cut slack to them. They're really I mean idealistic, right? That's the word, right?
Mhm.
At heart,
Mhm.
idealistic. I mean, I think the extroverted thinking being at the bottom is the root of a lot of their problems that the ENFP doesn't have.
Yeah.
The ENFP can get away with a lot more because of that, or in terms of development wise, I think.
Why do you say that?
I think like they say like your third function develops like the older you get. You know what I'm saying? And with the extroverted thinking coming in, I think you guys are able to be more critical and not get offended and take criticism. Most of the INFP's problems stem from the fact that the world is way too harsh for them. It's not the INFP's fault. That's the first thing. They are victims and they play victim, but they were born in a world that like they're just too sensitive for it, right? They're all sensitive inside. And so you know, but they can't help it, right? It's a world of ESTPs, ESTJs that are shitting on them, and then it's this frail creature that, even the men, even the guys are just. It doesn't matter gender; it has nothing to do with it. Because I know the INFP. One of my best friends growing up was an INFP. It's sad to think too, though, because like we haven't really talked in the last year. I don't know what's going on because he's actually in a relationship with another INFP, and like I don't know. We haven't reached out to each other, but we used to talk all the time, and even he was just too sensitive for our group. Like everyone else in the group was an ENTP, ENTJ, INTJ, and so we would just like. I mean, every time he joined like the party or would talk to us, like over a voice chat, we would just be like, honestly, somebody would just hurt his feelings in like no time, and he would just leave. Like it would just, and it was like, and then people just, and then they would get mad because he would get offended. You know what I'm saying? And it's like
Mhm.
they're upset, like, well, why is he being so, why is he being like that? Why can't he take a
Yeah.
joke? Whereas
That's
the,
actually something that I feel bad about for INFPs is that people get upset at them being upset. Like they can't even express their full discontent with things because people will be like, "Oh, how could you like feel emotions about this? How could you be upset about this? Like what's wrong with you?" blah 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 blah. It's kind of unfortunate that they have this need to be morally correct and they have this need to like express when things are not right for them, but for everyone to get upset when they do that.
yeah,
Well, I personally think what you guys are describing, well, mostly what Mecca or Shaun is describing is more to do with like a maybe less developed INFP. I think as INFPs get older, they are able to develop those things. And actually, I have another kind of interesting perspective on INFPs. When I first like started at my university, I joined Model United Nations, a simulation of the United Nations. And there actually was, like, as you can imagine, there was a lot of INTJs, or like a good amount considering ENTJs, ENTPs, a lot of NT types. But there also was a good amount of INFPs, which was very interesting. And I actually found that some of the most intelligent people in the group were the INFPs, and they were able to, when they were delivering speeches, it was very clear that those INFPs had really kind of tapped into their tertiary and fourth function. And that they were kind of more on the developmental scale. Because I also find that, and this might be part of their development, I do feel like INFPs feel they need to overcompensate when it comes to especially like intellectual subjects. Because I've always found that, I mean, it's not always the case, but some of the top students, at least in my high school and other places, were INFPs. I mean, INTJs, like other students as well, but some of the INFPs really were really good at academics. And I think it's because they really felt the need to prove themselves because when they were really young, they used to cry a lot or get picked on for being too emotional. And then they knew that they had, like, they were gifted in certain areas intellectually. So they used that to their advantage. And I personally think that George R. Martin is an INFP who wrote Game of Thrones. And I find as INFPs develop, if they're developing in a healthy way, or maybe this wouldn't be healthy, but just like as they mature, they're able to really kind of find their way around to extroverted thinking and really give some really intriguing thoughts and give some really detailed analysis of things. I don't know if that makes sense. Sorry. Sorry for the rant, I guess.
no, I don't think they're stupid by any means. I think they're smart, but I think that they come up with things that maybe can't always be implemented in reality. Like, which is good. I mean, they are nicknamed the Dreamer or whatever the hell. Uh, I don't know. There's many nicknames for them. I think they're more creative though. Creative in the sense of just artistic, and they are into art, whether it's real art, drawing, or if it's any kind of art. They can make an art out of anything, you know,
Yeah.
uh, and they will, because if they, that's their true. They're just passionate people. I can't even derive the kind of passion required to do like things like art that they do. I just don't have that in me. You know, I have like competitive drives and stuff, but even that is like when you think of the word passion, INFPs just got it from top to bottom in everything. In relationships, you know, they'll feel it intensely. At work, you know, if they like their job, they'll they'll feel it. It's really an internal feeling. It's like you look at them, you could tell what that they feel it. You know?
Yeah. Well, I personally think if they're put in the right element where they're supported and like they're not just like shot down all the time for having like certain views or being like maybe extremely like moral in their thinking or whatever might offend an INFP. I think and also if they're able to develop a thicker skin over time and they're in this like healthier environment, they are able to thrive. But I also think that INFPs, though they don't naturally gravitate towards structure, they do very well with structure. I mean, it's almost like they hate it, but they need to have it in
True,
order
true.
to like really succeed.
I think if
Because, yeah,
uh,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think if someone else gives them structure, they'll take it, but they never do it themselves. It's like, they go through spurts of just kind of like just doing whatever. But if they can get some structure, I don't think they despise it as much as other types, but they do kind of get claustrophobic. I feel, whereas like you don't want to constrict them. They're not
Yeah.
like you, Emily. With the INFJ, you can really be structured with them. The planning and saying, doing things ahead, even like a plan, like where you're gonna go that night with the INFJ. Speaking the grounds beforehand would almost, the INFJ would like it more, but the INFP, it might even kill some of the buzz. They would almost rather be a little, they like a little bit, if not a lot of bit of randomness and just, go with the flow. They don't want being constricted that much, but sure, structure. I don't think they hate it. I think you've given a good point. I also think though, with this type, thick skin and INFP don't go in the same sentence. But I also maybe after hearing you talk so much, I'm curious to see like what some of these INFPs I know will be like as I grow older.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
maybe I need to.
you have an interesting perspective because you are so young. I mean, I probably would think very similarly. Well, maybe not the same, but like I could see myself thinking pretty I can't even speak. Okay.
Similarly.
Similarly, when I was like your age,
Hmm.
even though like we're only 5 years apart,
Yeah.
it's
Well, perhaps all the INFPs I've came across are just immature, or
well,
just
yeah, they're still developing. I mean, me at 25 versus me at 20 is almost a completely different person.
yeah, 100%.
Um, I mean, for me, like, we'll definitely talk about this like when we get to INFJs, but I completely made like almost a 180 when I was 18 or 19 years old.
Hmm.
So, like, as far as how I was presented, because before it was and so I've also seen that with, like, INFPs, because you start really developing your 2nd and 3rd and, 4th function as you get older. So, like, you're starting to really be concentrated on your 2nd function when you're around your age,
Hmm.
um, which is very interesting.
One.
And some people before that and some people after that, but yeah.
Hmm. One other thing I would say about this type is they are more of a jack of all trades. Rather, for me at least, I prefer to be a master of one. It seems like I know a lot of INFPs. This is almost actually ubiquitous through all of them. They really like they'll get a game, they'll play it for 2 weeks, they'll get rid of it. Then they'll go to an instrument, they'll play it for a month, they'll go, and then they'll go. They go to from thing to thing to thing a lot. I mean, not that I don't at times, but like I stick with the same core things I think and grind them until I get really good. They I mean, I don't want to be. I feel like I've been a like kind of criticism on them, but I've also I've been given pros too. But they
Yeah.
honestly, the thing with INFPs is they could be really good at stuff if they could kick like the fact of giving things up so quickly. They don't because like let's just be honest. Like for me, at least as an INTJ, of course. Like I mean, most INTJs would be able to agree with me here. Like the biggest part of being good at something, like good, when you think of like oh I want to get really skilled at something, It's just putting in a lot of time. It's just time. It's like that whole 10,000 hours thing. It's just grinding and putting in as many hours as you can. And they just often don't do that. They want to go from interest to interest. And they have so many interests. I can't possibly be interested in that many things. I mean, I'm open minded, and they have it on here as one of the pros of INFPs being open minded, which I agree, and flexible. But I could never be interested in as many things as INFPs and ENFPs as well.
Yeah.
ENFPs too, Michelle.
Well,
I was gonna say I can be interested in that many
I
things.
don't know
yeah,
I
how,
think it's
dude.
a competition between INFPs and ENFPs who's interested in more things.
Yeah,
I
I
that's
think
insane.
ENFPs would win.
I would agree with that. I
I think so
personally
too.
think that actually certain INFPs, and I actually think that, certain things with INFPs they will get very focused on. Like as
Yeah, it does
for
say that here.
example, like drawing. I
Mhm.
found there were a few INFPs, one in particular that I'm thinking of that I was like very good friends with in high school. She was super into anime, like drawing and watching. She would draw manga or read manga and then watch anime, and like that was a huge thing for her. And so you would always see her drawing characters during class and like be drawing on her worksheets and like drawing on a random sheet of paper. And like her room, like whereas mine was, I mean, my room's messy right now, but like mine growing up was just very minimalistic. I've always had kind of a minimalistic kind of room setup in a way, like
Mhm.
not even meaning to. And it was like if we, especially if we had guests over, it would be clean.
Mhm.
Whereas with her, like you go into her room and she just has like manga thrown everywhere, all
It's
kinds of stuff.
trashed. Yeah,
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And
INFPs have trashed rooms. I've seen it many times.
she would very rarely like actually clean her room.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
thing. That's a real thing. That's fun. That's a weird point, but that is a thing.
which I think that, again, not all INFPs are like that. But that is more of a trend that they have.
Yeah.
And I don't think they really care as much, how that's perceived. Whereas like for me, I would if my room looked like that, I would be so embarrassed and I would
Mm.
not want people to come in my room.
I think that's a major difference between SE and SI, because an SE user wants to have things. I mean, most SE users that I know like to have things at least in a certain order, maybe more clean, especially like J types. And even too, we're kind of talking about MBTI, J versus P.
Yeah.
J types are going to want things a little bit more on the clean side, whereas P types aren't going to care as much or be willing to put in the effort. It's hard because I've never seen any INFP living spaces, but I can guess that they would be similar to mine, which is where we have a lot of things on the wall,
They're
kind of
trashed.
random, that just have some kind of like meaning to us and aesthetic pleasing
Sure.
stuff going on that may not be aesthetically pleasing to anybody else because it's FISI, not
Yeah.
FESI. Um, and also just not being that careful about cleaning things up. But I also think that INFPs, just as much as ENFPs, can also go the opposite, where they get like really into cleaning for a little while. Like when their place is a mess, they can go on a cleaning rampage, but they're not going to be clean all the time. They're going to have the rampage mode where they're just like
Yeah.
clean, clean, clean. Okay. And then they give up a little while and then clean, 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 and then give up a while.
That's so funny you say that because that's exactly what like this friend would do. Like I said, it would be very rare, but when she did, it was like a rampage.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that you can relate to as well, but like I find with INFPs they kind of hold on to mementos even more so than like I would. Like if I'm dating someone or like, if someone gives me a letter that I was dating, very rarely would I keep that letter. I would want to not have it anymore.
Hmm.
If they, and I think this is introverted feeling,
I think both that and SI. I think it's a
and SI
combination.
as well. Yeah, I think it's
Dude,
a
this is
combination.
incredible. Yeah.
But
I hold on to that kind of stuff.
see, I mean, I also found this with like an ICFJ girl that I know as well, so I think it might be kind of SI. But yeah, like as far as anything, and this goes for friendships as well. Like someone that really did me dirty, I mean, I may not like be mean to them, um, but I will cut off contact and I will cut off
Yeah,
um
it's a
I will
loyalty
get
thing.
I will get rid of stuff. Like I actually got rid
Mm.
of something that she drew of
That's
us
so sad. That's sad as hell.
as an INFP, and I know she probably was pretty sad by that, but she kind of yeah, I'm not gonna get into that.
No, that's all
But
good.
yeah, I threw it away. Because I couldn't
Dang.
deal with it. I couldn't deal with
Cold-hearted. No, just kidding.
No,
No,
it's just
I
how it is.
know.
It's a loyalty thing, and I agree.
It
I agree with
is.
Emily. I'm with Emily. I think it's I don't know what it is, but it might be the sensing function
I
here.
think
But
it's SI.
I do feel like INFPs, they kind of just will hold on
They
to
will.
things. It's
They
like
do.
they like to have those memories whether or not like that person did them wrong. It's like they like to have certain memories. Like my friend Anna, she still has pictures of her like ex, and like I mean she talked about this publicly, so it's not like a secret, but she like hold on to different things, and I just cannot relate to that at all because I will get rid of any little thing. Like
Mhm.
I mean when I was I mean like I dated this one guy and he like gave me the stuff that he got from I think it was China or somewhere. He like went on a study abroad, and he also gave me this other thing that he got from another study abroad in Saudi Arabia. And I like when we broke up, I just gave all of those things back to him because I just didn't want to have them anymore.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy. You know what's funny too, though? What blows my mind about this is first off, the way you speak when you say this, it sounds like like the way an INFJ would do it. But now I have not ever talked to an INFJ romantically, but I've always kind of wondered the way that they would think in a scenario like that, and that makes sense given the loyalty thing. I know how I am with loyalty. That would also make sense. I'm just saying the way you're wording it here makes a lot of sense. And the
yeah,
other thing that
well, oh, go ahead.
the other thing that you said that interests me though is how you mentioned how they hold on to that shit. And I was like, dang, because I didn't realize it till you said it, but like my ex kind of did have like all that like some like a couple notes from like you know what I'm saying like the guys before her, and so I'm sure she still has the stuff I gave her. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
definitely.
I'm sure that's just how they are memory oriented. Like even beyond all that like cheesy stuff, like they just like memories. I agree. Like they like pictures, almost like an ESFJ would with the SI in the secondary category. The INFP has it in the third, and I think they like those memories. They do stuff for memories a lot. I think.
I think you can picture this photograph by Nickelback.
Oh my gosh!
She's
Picture
Look,
mean.
this photograph.
look at this photograph. Look at this photograph. Every time it always makes me laugh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's just a sentimentality to that. It doesn't even matter that like things have gone wrong. Like it's like remembering the feeling that you had when you got that note that I think that they hold on to
See,
and that they
I
enjoy.
am not able to do that. Like,
It's FI,
if
man.
it's just like, I mean, I guess
Yeah,
I
that's not.
could, but like, if if I know that it's from a certain person, it's not like I have like a nice feeling from that like one little thing. If I have
Yeah.
it, it's like that person is dead to me. I mean, not to be mean, but
No, she's. I feel the same way. I feel the
I
same way.
mean,
I don't know
not
what it is.
really, and
Can't relate.
not really, not really. Like, I mean, almost everybody that like has wronged me, like I've forgiven and I've been able to like move on. And like sometimes I'll even be friends with those people that like I like, you know, felt like were disloyal or did something, and I've gotten rid of stuff. And I'm pretty like honest with them in the sense that I'll tell them, hey, yeah, like this thing I got rid of it. Um
Wow.
That's crazy.
like that one girl, I mean, I told her
You
that I
probably
got rid
crushed
of
her
it.
soul.
I got rid of it. And then she sent a digital copy because she already had a digital copy of it that she kept. So
Right, crushed her soul. She's an INFP. You killed her.
yeah.
But no, I mean, I don't know. I do think it is a. I don't know what it is. I find that interesting though. I find that interesting. Um, anything else about the INFPs you guys can think of off the top of your head before I get to the pros and cons list?
It's so hard for me to separate them from myself because we are just so very similar.
Look, I'll say
Um,
this.
so
I'll give a difference. I'll give a difference because I'm cool with both types. So I've already talked about how the INFP is artistic and often, literally, the most traditional sense of the word artistic, drawing, painting, etc. ENFPs are also very artistic, but you won't be able to see it in the same exact way. It won't be as blatant because often what ENFPs are artistic in isn't always considered art on the superficial level. For example, a lot of the ENFPs women I know, including my older sister, are artistic in the way that they do their makeup. People don't directly correlate that with art, but it is a form of
mhm,
art when you get the ENFP involved because the amount the amount of creativity they put into it, it's what separates them out looks wise. Or
mhm,
fashion is another common one that you see with the ENFP.
Yeah.
And that is an art. It is an art to be able to go and, you know, dress like that, and they stick out. One con that I know off the top of my head from this list that I'm going to pull up here with the INFPs and the ENFPs is that they dress weird sometimes. Actually, I think it's an
mhm.
FI thing too because I think they said about the
Yeah.
ISFP too. People with FI, the higher that introverted feeling is, they dress weird. Like not
Uh-huh.
inherently. I mean, weird is maybe a word to describe the ENFP
I
and
mean, I would kind of relate to that. Like, I mean, unless an INFP has been given a reality check where
Yep.
they
ha
like
ha
grow
ha.
up, or they grow up with like, certain influences, if they're just like dressing of their own accord, INFPs are very out of touch with fashion, and at least in my opinion.
True, 100% true.
They will wear things that are not even like, oh, this is kind of like couture, like, oh, this, like, because I mean, I personally think that ENFPs are way better at like figuring out, okay, yeah, I'm dressing kind of
Mhm.
weird, but it's like fashionable.
Mhm.
INFPs, it's like they never got the message. I don't know.
That's 100% true. They never got but it's
Tea.
cool though. It's cool though. I honestly like me personally, because I'm as open-minded as I am. I like it. I like the interesting new It's something new. The way that they talk, the way that they dress, it's something new. Same thing with the ENFP. I think that's the reason I get along with these types, because like I'm one of the few types that will accept them. Although I can be very mean at times to them, and that usually crushes them. But it's in good heart. Like I don't know how to help a type that doesn't want to hear the truth. Like, and that's just it's so hard for me. Like it really is. Like, I think, okay, do I not tell them the truth and their life will get worse? And that's not my desired result. I am looking at them. I like them. I want their life to be better, so I can give them the criticism, which I almost do naturally, or I'll say it without even real. The worst thing with INFPs, and it's also on this list. Yeah, right here. I'm just gonna pull it up, or I already have it up. I'm just gonna show it on the screen here. Potential problem areas may perceive criticism where none was intended. I have to deal with this all the time when dealing with them, and it's just unfortunate. Whereas like no criticism was intended. I noticed with the INTP friend of mine, he never takes things out of context ever. He knows exactly what I'm saying when I say it. The ENFP, they can't do that. They'll take things as like that wasn't even meant to be mean, And then what? Now her feelings or his feelings are hurt. Now the whole vibe's killed. Now I'm mad because I got them mad because he gets me mad because I care. It's I don't know. It is what it is.
I think it also depends on the personality that is interacting with INFPs,
For
because
sure, yeah.
I very rarely offend INFPs. Like, I mean, just the way we talk to one another, we very rarely offend each other.
That would make
Um
sense.
it's only if one of them did me dirty or vice versa. That's when things the claws come out. But other
Right. Well, I mean, I think NFs know how to talk to each other and rarely
True.
offend
They
each other
speak
in
their own
general.
language. They
Yeah.
speak their language. I agree.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. That is one difference. So, backing it up of the ENFP and the INFP and the way that they do art. Honestly, here one of the pros: highly creative, artistic, and spiritual. Oh, we never talked about the spiritual. I think
That's a good
ENFPs are
point.
actually more spiritual. I meet a lot of astrology ENFPs who are just like they're like into the like all that spiritual stuff. It's just, I listen to them because it's interesting, but I don't abide or stand by any of it. And yeah, I mean, it's cool stuff, but I also think sure the INFP would be spiritual. I think the NFs in general have some kind of spiritual. Like, I am just not very spiritual. Or at least maybe I don't. Maybe I'm butchering the definition of the word, but
No, I think NFs in general tend to be on the more spiritual side. And I think it goes along with being idealists and like wanting to have a reason for the feelings that you're having and wanting to have like a higher purpose. I think those two things make them more prone to being spiritual.
yeah. This here says they can produce wonderful works of art, music, and literature. You know, music. I have to say something about music, which is okay. And so for, I mean, everyone likes music. This is one thing. This is just me talking now. I feel like music is one thing that all humans like. Like I've tried to find something that's unique
Agreed.
throughout all humans, and music might be that thing. But one thing about the INFPs and music here, uh, they kind of have a weird approach to it. Where I remember with my ex, she would play this music, and I'm like, why do you even like this? But she was listening to the lyrics. Now me, I never cared about lyrics. I just cared about the beat, and that's why I listen to stupid like even modern rap. It's like
Hmm.
whatever. Like is it it's all about the extroverted sensing. Like does it sound good? And INFP listening to lyrics, I'm like wow, that's kind of weird. Like I always found me personally that was different. It was different from the way I approached it. If that
That's
Yeah.
made sense.
so interesting that you say that because, yeah, I can literally listen to a song like a million times and then all of a sudden be like, oh,
Yep.
wait, those are the lyrics of this song.
Yep. Hundred
Dude,
percent. Hundred
and I'm
percent.
the opposite. I'm like the INFP where like I literally listen to songs for the lyrics. And if they don't have and if I'm sharing a song, I'll think about the lyrics and I'm like, if I don't 100% agree with the lyrics, I will not send a person a song.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know, Michelle. Send us cryptic messages, which I mean, I'm a pretty cryptic person when it comes to like sharing songs. Um,
They
I mean,
do do that.
I think more indie songs, like for example, Bon Iver or like
Mm.
Banks or like Licky Lee or Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
I love
I'm
Rainbow
just
Kitten Surprise.
I
What a perfect band name
espresso.
too. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Which, by the way, they're gonna be like coming to Greenville in September, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna be here, so
Oh wow.
yeah,
That's
I'm
funny
gonna
you
be
say that though,
moving
Michelle.
away.
About how you only send people songs if the lyrics are on point. That's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Like
No,
that is
I have a huge problem. Like if I send lyrics that I think might give the impression that I don't want to give, I'll be like, "Wait a second."
yeah, that's weird. I cannot relate like at all. I don't even
Well,
but no, I think INFPs do it too. They do it
Mhm.
too. It's just a thing.
it is very interesting that you say that because, I mean, I kind of will post songs, like, for example, on my Instagram. I just did it today and yesterday. I'll post songs that, I do like them and I really do relate to them, but it's not necessarily directed at anybody or like anything like that. I just kind of post to not post to post, but I kind of post to see what happens.
Yeah.
Can't
So
relate.
Yeah.
Can't relate.
I just try to probe people, I feel like sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't know
and I
what it is.
think INFPs and ENFPs are more like this is this is a part of me. Let me share that with you. Let me like share my deepest,
That is it
darkest
right
secrets with
there.
you. Yeah.
Yep. It's a
See,
part of me. That is
for
them.
me, it's like I want to see what your interpretation is.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. All right, here we go with some more pros because we could talk about that one forever because that one's very intriguing. They're more spiritually aware than most people. They are in touch with their souls. Yeah, this concept of souls might as well have been made by them. Most
Yeah.
INFPs have strong faith. Those that don't may feel as if they're missing something important. An INFP should nourish their faith. Yeah, this is so ridiculous. Like I look at this and I believe in cause and effect. I believe in facts, and they're believing in faith. I like it though. It's cool. It's just different. I'm just different from this type though. I can't criticize that hard. I'm just different. But they are all about their faith. They believe in, whatever, even if it's a 0% chance. And I'll tell them, listen, it's not even 1%. I mean, this isn't going to happen. They'll still believe. So can't crush them that hard. INFPs are very aware of social injustice. We kind of already touched on that. And empathize with the underdog. That's true. They hate it and they do empathize with them. Empathy is a good word for them. Yeah, so I'm not going to go on about that one anymore. They're usually good listeners who genuinely want to hear about someone's problems and genuinely want to help them. They are genuine. That's the why earlier I said I think they're the most human type because they're genuine. Or they
I
try to
think
be.
that's the word you were trying to use. Maybe not human, but the most genuine.
Yeah, sure. I'll buy it. This makes them outstanding counselors and good friends. An INFP may find great satisfaction from volunteering as a counselor. That's interesting. Let's see. Anything else? Usually deep and intelligent. This is to go off Emily's
Mm-hmm.
point here. They're able to grasp difficult concepts with relative ease. They usually do quite well in academia. Wow, huh, interesting. Pretty much all the points Emily made are come true, which is this is not a point I would have made. So I'm glad Emily did because this is not something I think of when I think of INFPs. But apparently it's there. It's just something I'm overlooking. This is a good pro that they
Well,
said
like
that.
I said, you're gonna notice this more with like the people
They,
around you maturing
yeah.
and developing.
Um, well, they got a couple ones here. If they develop their extrovert intuition, which I have noticed this in real time a little bit. These are some of the things they'll have. They will have a great deal of insight into people's characters. They will quickly and thoroughly
Yeah.
understand where a person is coming from by assessing their motives and feelings. These well-developed INFP individuals make outstanding psychologists, such as Elizabeth Briggs Myers herself. They may also be great fiction writers. They do like fiction, it seems. Because they're able to
Yeah.
develop very complex real characters. I would say you are a writer, Michelle. You would probably fall into this category as well, as this is your sister type.
Yep. And I think it's interesting too, the attitude, like the development too, because ENFPs are going to develop their NE first and then their FI, and INFPs are going to develop their FI and then their NE. And I have a theory that I've been working on, which is that when you start to hit puberty-ish, is when you start to develop really your secondary auxiliary function.
The second one. I
That's
can buy it.
interesting, Michelle, because we were just talking about that when you were not with us.
Oh, no way. Yeah, I think that when you start hitting puberty is when you really start developing that second function. Um, and for INFPs, that means they're going to break more into their any realm. They're going to start seeing more possibilities because I feel like they'd be a little closed off to possibilities at first when they're younger. Not completely, but
Yeah.
not as much as like any dom. Like an ENFP, their world is possibilities.
Yeah,
And then
it's funny.
like when I was a teenager, that's when I really started getting into my FI and started like standing up for things and being more outspoken and that kind of stuff. And then after like my late teens, early 20s is when I started reining that back in with my FI. Whereas I would see um, INFPs probably getting really into their NE and start exploring possibilities come middle school, high school time. And then after they get out of high school, they'll rein that back in and get back into their FI, is what I would imagine. So if you're listening and you're in the comments, let us know if you relate to that.
Yeah, I could buy that too. And they say the third function goes throughout as you get older. You know, maybe
Yeah.
upwards 20s, 30s. I can't speak for if the fourth function ever gets strong. It will probably almost always be. But this is only speculation of what we're talking here. And I think
I
that
think
you're definitely right though, or not Michelle about the point you make here.
Well, I think so. That was exactly what I was saying earlier with you, is that that's the reason why I think you do not know so many INFPs that have been the most mature, because I personally also agree with Michelle, and that's what I don't think I explained it as well as Michelle, but I was trying to say that, there's a reason, like, for me, like when I was 18 or 19, I really started getting into extroverted feeling. Like that's when I
Mhm.
really was like into it. And to the point where people thought I was like an extrovert. And that's also where I saw, like, with INFPs that I knew in like Model UN, is they were really they were getting into those their second and third functions, especially their third, and fourth actually, and coming across as like very logical in many regards. Um,
Sure.
and they were able to make conclusions about things that if they were younger they wouldn't have been able to, because they were so stuck in introverted feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah. These are all good points, I think, but I got to get to their list of cons. I have to because this list is quite fucking long. All right.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, and these are detrimental. All right. Again, the deal breakers. I love this type anyway. And I don't know how to articulate. This is the thing. I don't know how to articulate the pros of this type because it's more of a feeling. They get you to feel this thing that no other type gets you to feel. So I can't put into words. I just
How
like the type.
FI is that?
Yeah, I just like the type. I don't know what else to say, but I can verbalize the cons because they're clear as day. So I don't mean to be shitting on you guys. But here we go. So maybe extremely sensitive to any kind of criticism. Definitely. May perceive criticism where none was intended. Sure. May have skewed or unrealistic ideas about reality. Yeah, that's kind of why I went on about this tangent earlier about reality and INFPs
Yeah.
don't mix.
Exactly.
It's just how it goes. I mean, there's no hate. It's just how it is. Where they just get so idealistic. Like, for example, I do think that that INFP friend of mine that I was talking about, who's in a relationship with another INFP, I personally think that the way that the relationship is set up, and I'm no expert on this. I know I'm not going to speak with certainty, but I would say that the probability of their relationship working out in the long run, which I'm very able to see with my NI, is slim to nothing. Whereas I have other friends who have really healthy relationships, like my ESTJ friend and he's dating an ESFJ, where I think the probability of them working out is very high because they've nurtured and they've solved the problems and they've talked about it. I just think that when INFPs bury the problems, again, this is just a friend I'm talking about. It doesn't snowball very well in the long run. And when things get buried, they don't go away. This is it. What does that meme I sent you the other time, Michelle? What is in the conclusion? They say you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences for ignoring
Yeah.
reality.
Exactly.
That's the message to the INFP, and that's one issue they have. Let's see what else they got here. They blame their problems on other people, seeing themselves as victims who are treated unfairly. They definitely play victim a lot. May have great anger and show this anger with rash outpourings of bad temper. Personally, I think they do have they do get angry, but I don't consider their anger rash just because I get angry too. But it is what it is. I don't know. It's a thing. I think they say very mean things that when their TE gets out there, they're when they're extroverted thinking, it's their fourth function. Like when they criticize someone, sometimes they just hit it right on the mark, and it can hurt. Even an INTJ or a type like mine, they say they just they go ham. They don't even when they drop their filters, they definitely.
I mean,
go
I've seen an INFP get mad, and it's
not
definitely
pretty.
is interesting.
It's not pretty.
It's scary.
Maybe unaware of appropriate social behavior.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But
But
definitely.
I think
Well,
ENFPs can relate to that too.
Going into the fashion thing, it's wearing, I don't know. I just can't. I mean, there's so many things I could say, but yeah. And I saw so many interesting INFPs in high school walking around with and this might also be ENFPs and other types as well. I'm not saying that they're just these types, but it's I just thought of the raccoon tail or just some really very hyper Japanese culture, anime kind of subculture type.
Yeah, I was gonna say even that I think INFPs are the ones who would dress like Harajuku dresses now, but
Yes.
before Harajuku existed. Like all these different layers of different colors and patterns and
the Lolita style. The
Yeah.
Lolita style is very much what INFPs. Not all INFPs, but I mean, I even kind of poked at that when I did my impression or in I guess when I was being an INFP for a year, whatever. But I truly do know INFPs that are like that, or they used to be like that, which is interesting.
For sure.
But they are kawaii. I'm just saying.
It does seem like they would all teenager INFPs would like anime more than other types. That definitely sounds like a thing. Also INFJs too, but anyway. Let's see here. Maybe oblivious to their personal appearance or appropriate dress. We kind of already talked
Yes.
about this one.
That was what
Yeah.
we just talked about.
Maybe unable to see or understand anyone else's point of view. I mean that's an interesting. Yeah,
Sometimes.
that's what Emily was saying.
That's what I mean by selfish.
Yeah. May value their own opinions and feelings far above others. Yep. Okay, Emily's got
Mm.
this figured out. She must see the cons that I didn't see, and I must see the cons that she didn't see, and we're mashing them up to a perfect episode.
Well, I've never actually dated. I don't think I've been in a relationship with an INFP, but I've definitely. I mean, I've had INFPs interested in me, and I've liked INFPs or whatever. And I've also had so many INFP friends, or like I don't know if I have any family members that are INFP, but I definitely have had friends in the past that are
Oh yeah,
INFP,
you just
and
made
now.
me think of something. You just made me think of something. INFPs often I've noticed their families like I don't want to use this word, but their families like kind of hate them. Not hate them, but like they kind of just the INFP like I don't know they kind of I don't know how to explain it. Either their parents like get in they just get frustrated with the INFP and the INFP plays victim, or just genuinely speaking they have a hard time with their siblings. I don't know how to explain it.
Again, I think it really depends on who the parents are, because the INFP that I was friends with in high school, and this did not help anything. Her mother like worshipped her. Um
Shoot.
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah, she like worshipped her and she could do no wrong. And like I mean, it didn't help that like she's also like a pretty girl, so it was like she got a big ego because of all of that too.
Yeah, that happens. Let's see what else. I'm just gonna read a couple more because their list is long. Maybe oblivious to other people's need. Yeah, that sucks. May feel overwhelmed with tension and stress when someone expresses disagreement with the INFP or disapproval of the INFP. Yeah, that's kind of along with the first couple they named.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Under great stress, may obsess about details that are unimportant to the big picture of things. Oh my god, this is
Yeah.
annoying as hell. Like when you guys are in a stressful scenario and you guys are trying to work it out and they're just talking about bullshit and like I already know what the important parts are and they're just I can't deal with it. Sometimes they drive me nuts. Uh, Maybe may have unreasonable expectations of others.
Yeah. No, I think that's the lead FI right there.
That's it. And then this last one here may have difficulty maintaining close relationships due to unreasonable expectations. I listen.
Right.
I know Emily, you mentioned earlier that you don't entirely agree with this, but I personally stand by this big time. I think INFPs and ENFPs have a seriously hard time maintaining lifelong or extended connections with people. Like they often will find someone, it'll be very intense, and then something will fuck it up. Like those two types more than others. That's just where I stand on it. And personally, I think that they can't maintain a close relationship for a long time because of this unreasonable
Well,
expectation.
I definitely think they can, but I also think it's very difficult. Like especially if someone didn't know stuff about typology, I think knowing stuff about typology makes it even better. And
Sure.
had I known, the stuff I know about typology now, and that I knew that this person was an INFP at the time and all the stuff, which by the way, this person has taken the test, and like, other people, it's just like there's just a certain mentality. Like I often find with at least the INFPs that I've known of, and this is not always the case, but I do find that I kind of have to do more of the legwork in the relationship than they do.
100%. Yeah, I agree completely. And this is why this INFP with INFP relationship that I was describing is a complete nightmare because neither of them want to solve the problems. And they're just ignoring like if the girl does something shady and then the guy maybe does something or he doesn't, I don't know, it's just weird. Like I just feel like they're both burying the problems. Neither of them want to solve them and it's just not going anywhere good. But yet they love each other. I mean, I think they're actually going to get married. I don't get it. It's very interesting thing to watch. They have a lot of love in them. This type, despite all the cons, they're a great type. Uh, Obviously I talked a lot about them this episode because I have a decent chunk database of information on them. I think Michelle obviously uh, she's pretty much just like them, at least to a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
degrees. So
that's what's part of the problem is like they're very similar to me and like but I would say even just like with this most recent point about keeping long-term relationships, I think that the reasons why we both struggle to have long-term relationships are different because I think ENFPs are a lot more forgiving than INFPs of stuff like what you were mentioning. And I think ENFPs would be more likely to move on because of something like boredom or seeing something that could be better, whereas
Yeah.
the INFP
Yes.
would be much more likely to leave because they're offended by something that happened, is my
Yeah.
opinion.
Sure. I think that.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with that.
I think
Sorry.
ENFPs are more optimistic than INFPs.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's true too.
I think ENFPs are just very much ENFPs are like like you were saying, it's almost like flaky or like bored of a situation. And
Mhm.
like, I mean, even with my friend Anna, like we've been friends since 2014. We've almost been friends for like 5 years. I mean, I've known her entire college experience and stuff like that. But like we definitely went through a period of time where Anna was kind of figuring out herself and kind of diverged a little bit, but then she came back. But it wasn't like we like had a falling out or anything, but it was just like a young ENFP, getting into her element. Um, and now she really sees like the value of like the closer friendships, but she has even expressed the fact that she will get bored in situations and like want to, try different things. And like whenever we go out, and to this day, I'm not like this, but we'll go out and we'll hop from bar to bar to bar. And like for me, I like to just stay in one place if the atmosphere is really good. But yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference personally between ENFP and INFP because a lot of these other things it's just like, yeah, yep, I relate, I relate, I relate. But I think their SI being stronger and their FI being stronger just I don't know, kind of like the INFJ, I could see them wanting to stick with things because it's comfortable and they know it. Whereas ENFPs would get more bored easily, I think.
Yeah.
ENFPs have like a built-in boredom. Like it's like built
Yeah.
in, and so everything they do is to break their natural state of boredom, right?
Yeah.
It's like they're born in, and their baseline is boredom, and so
Yeah.
they spend their whole lives just trying to get away from that. That's pretty much an ENFP's life.
That's really funny.
It's funny you say that, and I'm gonna like pull up a bullet journal. So I used to like measure my mood for the time of the whatever, like for the month or whatever. And I think my middle line is boredom of like my mood. If I drop below boredom, then I'm below baseline.
That's so funny because, like, I think I've said this before, but I could literally be in a room filled with nothing, like, literally be in solitary confinement and be able to entertain myself.
Can't relate. Okay, yeah. So my mood gauge was from sad to bored to excited, and bored is like a 5 out of 10.
Wow.
It's funny because that's just exactly what he's saying. Like we're midline at our main state is boredom. I think it's true.
Yeah, but
I can definitely see that.
wouldn't the INFP be somewhat similar? I think they do get bored. Like they do just
I
get
mean, I
bored.
definitely think INFPs are more similar in that case than, like, say, an INFJ. I don't think an INFP would want to be in solitary confinement. Whereas, like, for me, I kind of dream of being in solitary
Oh
confinement.
my god. You say that now, but if you had it, you would probably get sad of it eventually.
No. I really don't want to be in jail or something like that. But, like, I kind of would love if I could just go in a room for a year and just.
Can't relate. Can't relate.
Yeah, if I could just like plan my whole life for a year. Or not, maybe not even a year, but like a few days, if I just went on a retreat by myself, didn't interact with anybody, but just I don't know.
Yeah.
Dude, the way that we've torn down the INF, like our last episode was ENTP, and we just like couldn't name hardly any cons. And then we have this episode where we couldn't hardly name any positives. We love INFPs, so.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of positives, but the thing is, I think INFPs, I think it's good that we did say this because just like INFJs, and trust me, there's going to be some tea on INFJs.
Oh, yes.
Jesus.
I people don't really see like the bad sides of INFPs, and that's something that really bothers me about like, the
Mm.
websites like 16personalities.com and stuff like that. It's like they always show the most idealistic version of certain types and then like really bash on other types.
Yeah. I think 16 Personalities hypes it up more than they don't give credible information. They just hype it up. They want you to
Well,
be
I don't
interested.
talk about the cognitive functions
Yeah.
that I know of. Like I've never seen cognitive functions on there. Maybe there are. I
I
don't
think
know.
maybe within the questions, but not within the descriptions.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, not even. I don't think even that. Right? They only test
mean-
for like the letters, not even the functions. They just test for thinking and because let's be honest, there is differences between just like T and F. Like J and P, there is a difference just between that. Beyond the functions is like
Yeah.
all it is like lifestyle preference, right? It's
Mhm.
lifestyle. So that's why I made that distinction very clear in the beginning of this episode. You know, INFPs don't like the structure or wouldn't or the difference between the INFP and the INFJ. That's what we started out with this episode. The difference between those two, and one of them is
Mhm.
definitely the structure. I think.
Well, and I think that's
And the lifestyle.
an interpretation too of like P and J.
Yeah.
Especially in
That's the
Myers.
most-
That's a Myers-Briggs interpretation of
Those are
like
the worst, like, two letters to discern from each other. Like the other ones are a little easier. Like actually,
well,
most
because Myers-Briggs has it weird. Like they're not. It's just to me, I don't like the way Myers-Briggs does that, but I do understand why they do it. If that makes sense.
yeah.
I think in a workplace, the letters can be pretty accurate.
In the workplace, I mean, my theory is, in the outer world, those letters make sense. Which, by the way, I actually need to go. I didn't even realize the time.
Yeah, we've been going for a while. It's all good. I think there's just so much to say. All right, we can wrap it up. Is there anything else you guys got to say about INFPs?
We love you,
Anything else?
INFP.
Yeah,
I mean,
Michelle.
I don't want you guys to get upset. I really do like INFPs, and I mean, yeah, INFP is like, I mean, I definitely prefer INFPs to other types, but they're definitely not my favorite type either.
Yeah, that's funny. My
You guys are
ESTJ,
my twins.
my
I'm
ESTJ friend of mine's actually about to show up, and I was gonna have him say something about them, but he hasn't gotten here yet. But I know he's just gonna shit on him.
That's an okay thing for me. So
he's
just
just
kidding.
yeah, he would just tear them down. I mean, he honestly really gets annoyed because it's like the introverted
Mhm.
feeling and the extroverted thinking are flipped, first and fourth, and it is just no go. It is a no go with those types. They
Well,
often
they're kind of a interesting relationship at a distance. I mean, I definitely have experienced that with my dual, like an ESTP. At a distance, you can be very suspicious of one another, but I think when you actually get close to them, it's different.
yeah, like he'll even hang with the INFP friend of ours, but it's like it's still like, and then afterward he'll just be like, this bothered me and that bothered me and this is the craziest thing. I think it's so crazy. But yeah, he that is one other thing. Yeah, Michelle said it best. INFPs, we love you. We are mean, but we love you.
It's all in love. We all need some negative feedback sometimes. And it's not negative. It's just like, hey, this is reality. This is what you're like. And I don't even think honestly that everything that we said is a negative. It's just these NI dumbs think it's a negative.
No, I mean, I don't necessarily think of it as a negative either. It's just constructive criticism. And again, a lot of the stuff that was said, some of it is stereotypical, and then some of it changes as like an INFP matures or develops. So,
Sorry, I tried to put all the blame on them, didn't I?
Yeah.
I love you guys too. I'm just saying.
But we've been going for a while. Hope you guys. Oh, my ESTJ friend is here.
Click like and subscribe.
All right. Anyway. All right. We're just gonna wrap this up though.
Thanks for listening, guys. We had fun.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and all our stuff's in the description, so follow us there.
Like and subscribe.
All right, hey, this is my ESTJ friend, and we just need to know. All right, Rich, just a quick question, honestly. What is your stance on INFPs? We just need that.
All right, so from my personal experience with most INFPs, I mean, I'm just gonna be upfront with it. We just don't really mix too well. Uh, I believe there's some sort of what is it called, like the shadow? Yeah, we just simply don't use the same functions. Sorry, I'm not too brushed up on MBTI as I usually like to be. But from my personal experiences though, almost every INFP I've met has gotten along extremely well with me.
Really?
Um,
I was
I
saying the
mean,
opposite.
Well, so INFPs and ESTJs, those are like the perfect match for each other, actually,
really?
because you guys do have the same functions but in a different order.
Okay. Okay.
So it might be you guys are both young, so that also plays a role.
Mhm.
But at a distance, you guys might be suspicious of one another, or like may not think that you get along. But when you get really close to an INFP, like a true INFP, and
Mhm.
that's the thing, you have to like know they're an INFP, because an
Right.
INF, if someone's actually an INFJ, then that would probably be a bad relationship.
Right. Definitely.
But if they're truly an INFP, then you would probably get along really well with them.
Right. And that's kind of where I was coming from, saying that usually, most of the INFPs that I do know, I have a really good INFP friend, and I at least thought one of Shaun's exes was kind of like me. I thought we got along pretty well, but yeah. So I mean, my personal experience, I mean, I wouldn't say they're my favorite type. I also think I need to give them more of a better shot. Yeah, that's because it's my one personal experience with a good friend of ours. It's like he's just an easy target. Everybody knows it. So um, I kind of give INFPs a bad rap. I just need to give them another shot. Really, I have nothing against them. Just yeah, I don't know. I think
Yeah.
sometimes I can be a little overwhelming to an INFP. Sometimes I come off as I guess rough around the edges. It's not the phrase I was looking for,
Mhm.
but
Well, thank you for your cameo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
dude.
him. Hey, I didn't think he'd give that response, but I just figure I'll throw this on at the end of the cast. So.
Shaun, you need to study socionics.
Do I?
Yeah, dude.
And then
Dude,
and
people
then all of
beg
this
it.
stuff
'Cause-
is gonna make sense to you. There's a reason why your friend gets along with INFPs.
'Cause
But I
duels,
perceive it
man.
as he always complains about him, but he
You know,
swears.
that's just Delta vibes there.
Oh my god, I'm losing it, man. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. I
No,
can't
that's
deal with
funny.
this, bro.
That's funny.
I'm
There's
glad he came on.
there's some definite beta vibes. I mean, there's some beta vibes. Betas are petty and shady.
With him,
Betas
you heard
are.
it. You heard it in his voice, didn't you? No, but he's actually he's like the same exact age as me. But he was talking about the.
Well, that's why I
INFP friend.
said you guys are both young. I mean, I could tell by his voice that he was young.
Because we're so old and mature as 25-year-olds, almost 26.
I like how-
we
I
have
like how
so
he's-
much life experience on you guys. We can just tell that you're babies.
I liked how he said that he's an easy target though. Like INFPs can't be. Easy
Well, they
targets.
are easy targets. I
They are.
agree.
They're reactive. When you cross something they believe in. We didn't even cover that. How reactive they are.
We still can. We're throwing this
I
right
have
in
to
there.
go. I
Yeah,
really
no,
have to
it's
go.
all good. Hey, we've
But I
covered
think
enough.
I think we did talk about that.
We talked
actually.
about pretty much everything you can talk about. So, all right, people, this is
All right.
closing number 2. Until next time, we love you guys,
Peace.
INFP. See ya.